what happened in the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. Alright, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. My name is Abby Tyrrell, and I nearly forgot the intro, because it's been that long, hasn't it? It's been that long, and I apologise. It is time for an explanation, isn't it? It is time. What seems to be public knowledge now, which is good. I am filling my summer holiday up with as many abroad holidays and holidays about as I can. That will be 3 that overlap racing, to my knowledge. Of course, Saudi being the first. We're currently halfway through the Saudi weekend, and I apologise. I will get to recording straight away. Don't you worry. Saudi being the first one. Then it's also Monaco and Monza. Can't lie. If I'm going to miss one, make it Monaco. Not too upset about that. But yes, I am missing a couple more. I was honestly completely unable to actually record this holiday. I left, so I was on holiday in Ireland. I left on Monday and I came back yesterday, which was the Friday, and that's literally like all of the recording possibility. I couldn't have done it on Sunday night, so that was actually all of the recording slots possibilities I had to. I'm back on a Saturday and I'm recording it now. Gonna get this out straight away, and I will do the Saudi video as soon as possible. I also have another cook-up video that I want to do. Just apologise for me being away, and I appreciate I've been away. I'm very much looking forward to recording. I love doing XRS Plus. I love being back in the booth here. But I am cooking up a video, and I'm interested enough to do it, right? And I was cooking it up when I was on the plane and on the journey back, actually, and I was kind of thinking to myself about what I could do with this video. It was as if it was a bit like a grid rundown, almost like a OCC rundown, talking about all the teams. But in my head, the way I described them was very critical, like was very honest. It was an interesting little dive into each of the teams. I'm interested in making that video. I won't lie. I'm actually very excited in doing that video, but I want to make sure I record it after Saudi, because I want to see how Div 1 goes. So after Div 1, I will hopefully, if you guys want to be seeing that, I will record 2 videos. I'll do the Saudi race weekend rundown, and then I can't lie, I might look to make like an OCC rundown, like my actual opinions on how everyone's doing, because I've got a lot of big opinions. I was like, on the bus back, I took many modes of transport to get home, that's fair to say. But on the bus back, on the plane back, I was thinking to myself, like, I've got so much to talk about here. It's been a really juicy season. A lot of switches up in the OCC, a lot of interesting performances, and definitely a lot that have been a bit more off the pace than we maybe expected. I am really interested to like just vent my opinions and just frustrate some people, just anger some people. And I know it's not much of an apology, just annoying you, but I really enjoy getting these official opinions out. Because you know what I'm saying, right? Every time I say something in these podcasts and someone pings me and says, "Oh, that's ridiculous. Like, how are you saying that? Like, do you not believe in me? But do you actually feel this way?" I'm like, prove me wrong. Ping me back and prove me wrong. If I say you're not going to win the title, then win the title and prove me wrong. I love getting proved wrong like that. So I think critical words is always good. So I will look to do that. But anyway, let's focus on China. Let's get China done. Move on to Saudi. Get Saudi done. Then we can get some critical. I'm quite critical in this rundown as well, actually, to be fair, hopefully. But I will look to see what we can do. Anyway, the weekend started on Wednesday, as it does now in XRS, as opposed to the Thursday it was previously in the last few seasons. Division 5. It's getting very, very interesting at the front, I can't lie, and China did not disappoint whatsoever. My driver win is going to go to King Cobra, and it kind of has to. So first of all, looking at the history books of XRS, it's Alpine's first ever win. They're the only team that's never won a race before, and they've just cooked up their first win. It's taken them 3 seasons, granted, but that was slightly Boldy's fault for season 1. They have finally got themselves up on their feet, and Failing Squash has really cooked here in actually giving this team a bit of progression. Now, you might look at this team and think, well, they're only P8 or they're P7, wherever they are in the OCC. They're only wherever they are. They're not much to look at. No, they absolutely are. I don't think people realised how deep in the mud Alpine were at the end of season 1 after Boldy was TP. He was awful, and he will never step foot in a TP spot unless there's a big change. And that team was so far away, from being competitive. It took Beaked and now Failing to try and get it back up. Failing has done an absolute stellar job bringing that team back into contention of anything less than P10. They were closing in Aston Martin at the end of last season, but they weren't close enough to make a position in the OCC. Alpine are back. Alpine are back to be doing the things that they should have been doing in season 1. And they've got themselves their first win. And I can't lie, it was a very good win. It wasn't just a win, it was a genuinely quick win. So looking at that race, actually, I think it's fair to say that Tiger is the fastest Div 5. He's definitely quicker than King Cobra at this stage in the season. But what was very interesting about that race, actually, about how Cobra took it, was that he almost used his outside surroundings in able to beat Tiger. I'm assuming that's what he was doing anyway. So they went onto the medium tyres from the hards. Cobra and Tiger on the same strategy. King Cobra pitched a couple laps earlier, so it gave him the undercut. He was able to make that gap. I believe Tiger was ahead prior to the pit stops. And then King Cobra actually didn't push away. He slowed down and allowed Throwing Globe to stay with him, to almost use him as a wall against Tiger. And then when Tiger finally, maybe, because obviously he had to defend for quite a while. Tiger was not only the quicker driver at this stage in the race, he'd gapped him in the first stint, but he also had the quicker tyres in the second stint. It was now more unfair than it was that he had to previously fight Tiger. So what it seemed like he was doing was slowing down and Throwing Globe, using him as a wall, because Throne was on the alternate strategy, starting on the mediums, going to the hards. His tyres weren't quick enough to fight Cobra. So he used him as a wall. He used him like Science used Norris in Singapore, as we always remember, the example we always use. And he used him as a wall. He used that DRS that giving to Throwing Globe and forced Tiger to burn his battery to just make that position. When he finally did make that position, King Cobra just burnt past on the straight, and the fight was on raw pace. But instead of having to defend a driver that's quicker than you for 15 laps or whatever it was down to like 7. So it was an enormous advantage he got then. And then I believe just on raw pace he beat him. I think Tiger went for a move on the final lap. And actually, McLaren is making a lot of late moves to win the race, which I'll talk about later in the podcast, I'm sure. And in the Saudi one as well. But yes, Tiger went for a late move at the hairpin, misjudged his braking point, and King Cobra swept through the final corner to win the race. Very well done, I'll be honest. And that was a really, really well-managed race. And the thing that stands out for me with this win as well is that you'd expect... Like, it's unnatural. I haven't talked to him. It's unnatural, and you'd expect as a spectator, me watching that race, he hasn't done that on purpose. He's way quicker than Throwing Globe in this stage of the race. Why is he slowing down? He's using him as a bit of a defence. And that's a strategy. That's quite a complex strategy to do in a race. And you'd expect that to be done by one of two things, or both. Either a top driver, so probably Div 1, Div 2, maybe the most experienced of Div 3, or you'd think that would come from a driver that's in a team that's very experienced, that's taught them how to do it, engineered them to make these specific moves, maybe a Ferrari, McLaren, or Haas. King Cobra is in neither of these. He's not only in the bottom division, but he's also arguably in the bottom team, at least the bottom team last season. He is probably in the entire league the least likely to be pulling complex strategies like that, and it actually works. So fair play to him. And what's interesting about this signing as well, which I'll absolutely talk about in my OCC rundown if we make a video of such, is that King Cobra opted to go to Alpine. So from what I can tell from my history notes that I found out, my little research, King Cobra was also offered a seat by Ferrari, McLaren and Haas, and he turned all 3 of the top teams in XRS down for the team that was arguably the worst. At least they were the worst last season. He was signed at the start of the season, so the only evidence he had of Alpine was season 1 and 2, both of which they came last, and he opted for that team. Now, I don't know the specific reasons, but presumably he's seen something in Alpine, and maybe that's the start of a relationship. What I always say in these top drivers and bottom teams is that they will just get bought out by a top team. We've seen that so many times. Season 1, we saw Coy in Alpine get bought out by McLaren. We saw Rosman get bought out from Williams to AlphaTauri. If you guys know, if you OG XRS members remember back to season 1 all the way to the start. We see that very often where bottom teams will scout and find drivers that are up and coming, rising stars. They'll just get bought out by the big teams. However, King Cobra has done the complete reverse of this, where he's actually already been offered by the big teams and has opted for a small team. If he stays in Alpine for a long time, he's failing Starboy realistically, because he's gonna be the highest scoring driver in that team. He needs to stay on, and I mean, there's always the threat of him getting moved up as well, but. That's almost why I want to do the OCC rundown now, after round 3, when the admins are planning to do a bit of a division wobble around, a division wiggle, to see to try and get everyone more competitive. Don't you worry, by the way, everyone who's saying, oh, don't do it round 3 because all the teams that will lose their best drivers will have a free seat and they have to buy reserves. Don't you worry, a little window will open, but it's not a public window. It's a window that has to be specifically affecting your team, and you'll have to ask for permission to make sure it is specifically affecting your team by me in DMs. More information for the team principals and an announcement coming up. We don't need to worry about that now, but that's basically the gist of it. Don't worry, we've got it sorted. Anyway, King Cobra probably won't get moved up. It's a threat because him and Tiger are the two big names in that division. Throne Globe maybe, but I think he should be fine, and he's definitely a driver to hold on to from Alpine to because he could definitely propel them up a couple of OCC positions just by being that good. And that obviously brings an attraction from other drivers. They naturally become a midfield team, as they should be. Fair play to Cobra, very good win. Alpine finally got their name on the scoreboard. My driver loser, Sarah Ferrer. Sarah Ferrer, a driver that is, I mean, realistically probably third quickest in the division, maybe Throne Globe, and he's nowhere near the consistency to even contend to that rating of him. You can be the third fastest, you can be the second fastest, you can be the fastest in the division by a year, but if you're spinning, making mistakes, even little mistakes, that does add up. And that essentially is Sarah Ferrer's season so far. Of course, he has done one additional race to what I'm talking about now. I'm not including anything he's done in Saudi Arabia. Just looking at China, I believe he spun twice or three times. He was fighting at the front, exactly the same as Australia, was fighting at the front, spun on his own. He could absolutely be a big name in VCAR, but he's just not going to be with this level of consistency. There needs to be some kind of training, some kind of help for Sarah Ferrer on his consistency. Otherwise, it will stay the same. Especially since they've signed Alamata. I know I'm not going to say I shouldn't reference a race that I shouldn't be talking about, but all I'm going to say is Alamata is a top driver in this division, so he's going to feel the threat from his teammate as well. Yeah, but another poor race. If he held it on track, he'd be cooking in this division, but he's not. So it's becoming a very familiar thing, unfortunately for him, and you don't want that on your reputation. My team winner, I have actually just given it to Alpine. I initially said no one, because there wasn't a specific teammate pairing or two drivers who had a particularly good race in my books. So I gave it to Alpine because, you know what, they've got their first win. So that's such a fantastic accomplishment. I'm so happy for them. So I've got to give it to Alpine. They've got to get team winner here. My team loser, absolutely Aston Martin. I don't know what they're doing. And you know what it is, right? And in my head, on this bus journey I was talking about, I had literally a half an hour rant in my head of why is Aston Martin second in the OCC. I have a whole speech planned about it in the video that will come out about the OCC if I do make one. But they would be so far forward, so much more far forward if they weren't screwing over Throne Globe every weekend. What are these strategies that they're putting one of their best drivers on every week? What is going on here, right? So Australia, the obvious strategy was medium hard, right? And obviously it changes for different races, and maybe they're just testing the alternate strategy on Division 5, and then obviously that knowledge is taken on to the further divisions. But can you not do that in your free time? Can you not spend Monday and Tuesday doing that instead of ruining this poor man's race every weekend by putting him on test strategies? So the strategy in Australia, or at least the best strategy, as we found out by the end of the weekend, was medium hard, and he did not do that. He did hard medium, and the undercut that he was done by was the most brutal thing I've ever seen. He was fighting up at the front with Tiger and with King Cobra. And I think Sarah Ferrer was there as well. We had Keel as well up there as an exotic scarf, to my memory. And the undercut, he was just completely pushed out of contention. Yes, obviously he had the mediums, he could catch back up a bit. But he was nowhere near where he could have been. And it's almost on the opposite thing this weekend. And I appreciate it's difficult to get the right strategy sometimes, but if Aston Martin are serious in contending with the top three teams in XRS, these fundamental mistakes cannot be the mistakes that they're making. You can make mistakes, but not this kind of stuff. Not this kind of stuff. Throne Globe did the exact opposite in China, where the best strategy was absolutely hard medium by so far, and they did medium hard. And the issue here is that you've got to do the opposite thing. So if you start the mediums and your rival's starting on hards, you have to have the pace to gap them on those tyres. Otherwise, when you pit, your undercut will be smaller, because obviously if you start on mediums, you're going to get an undercut, and the undercut is smaller if you're towing everyone behind you with DRS. So he undercut by I imagine about 2 seconds, I think it was, which left King Cobra and Tiger like about 2 seconds behind him on fresh mediums, and he was used. I talk about that. He was used by King Cobra. He was so slow. Cobra felt that he was so slow that he could use him in his fight for Tiger. He wasn't even considering that Throne Globe was in contention for the win here. I'll be perfectly honest. I think that the only people that are going to win a race this season is King Cobra and Tiger, unless Throne Globe gets a good strategy, because he's probably number 3 in winning a race. The AlphaTauris, VCarbs, are probably year 4 and 5. But yeah, Throne Globe, again, second race in a row, not on the right strategy. And I know what strategy I had in Saudi, but I can't talk about it because I haven't got to the Saudi rundown yet. But it's not going to be good words. I'll talk about him. So yeah, there we go. On to Division 4, on to the Thursday race, and a very interesting race it was. Very, very unusual race it was. My driver winner, I've got written down Cajun, but it also says shout out to Jace. And I would like to shout out to Jace because fair play, he missed qualifying after retiring in the points in Australia. So already the two things he's done this season are completely useless. But he's come through and he's had a good race. It's not letting me bring up the companion app for some reason, so you might have to hold on, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where he finished because, again, as I said, it's not letting me bring up the companion app. So, but I know he finished. I think it was 7th. Fair play. It's not the best result in the world. I think Jace probably could have finished higher had he done the entire. If he'd done qualifying. But you know what? A good batch of points, and especially after how poor his Australia was, and the memes and the jokes I would continuously make about it. He's done a good job to rectify it. He is not my driver winner though. And again, it's very difficult to do this recording without the companion app, which for some reason on my computer is not loading. So I will redo that while I'm talking. My driver winner I have written down as Cajun. What we learned from Cajun in the previous 2 seasons, of course, on a different game, was that he was very, very strong in qualifying, but what he lacked was race pace, and he seemed very, very aggressive in the race. He was very, very throttle happy, which I kind of just chuck it into corners. Actually, he would drive in 23 as if it was 24 handling. Everything he does is aggressive, and that seems to be working on this game. I mean, I can't imagine his tyre wear is too great, but what he lacks in that, what he's gained is a lot of, a good style. It works for his style in racing. His qualifying is still solid. Again, I would say where he qualified if the companion app would open. It seems like there's having some kind of technical difficulties as I'm recording, which is always useful. But there we go. It's loading up now. But I think he finished about 6th, and this is really good from him because Aston Martin, as I said, very, very strong start to the season. I'm so excited to see what they can cook up. But you'd expect from looking at previous seasons, one of their detriments would be Cajun in terms of racing. He hasn't had the easiest previous 2 seasons, it's fair to say. He hasn't exactly been a hugely notable name in the division. He's been in Div 4 since the start. Here we go, got it up now. Qualified 7th, finished 5th. Very, very strong. And you know what, actually, I'm going to bring up, I've got an advert as well. Is everything here trying to stop me from finding out about Cajun One Eye? No, I know you're listening to this. No one wants me to talk about you. I want to talk about you, but it's not letting me. You qualified 7th, finished 5th in China. You qualified 12th in Australia, and of course you got the strategy as bang on as you could have got it, because remember Div 1 and Div 4 Australia was kind of weird, but he finished 4th there as well. Really, really good. And I think Cajun has really gone under the radar in that division because, yes, fair enough, he's probably not going to fight for the title. I don't think he's going to win it. He probably won't be top 3 either. You got the McLarens up there. You got Tomasz, you got Tycho, you got Jamie, you got the Ferraris, you got Jace. He probably won't be, the star of the show. But what he is doing, and what I think a lot of people like about this podcast is the fact that I notice it, is that he is just cooking up big results. And that is so helpful for Aston Martin. That's unbelievably helpful for Aston Martin. He is driving so well in comparison to his previous 2 seasons, where his race pace is now matching his quali pace. And in the race I was engineering the Ferrari boys in that race, he was fighting for 5 wise for a good amount of that race. He had really good pace. He was very well managed. And it seems like his headspace during the races as well is a lot better, where he's not making that kind of erratic moves after something goes wrong. Really, really consistent drive, and I think he's absolutely he's turning into like an underlying star of that division. I do think he's going to be appearing in the top 5 again and again this season. I would be unsurprised if he wins a race. I think he will get his first win this season. He's doing very well, and with doing that, he's also leading the team that is probably on the tip of everyone's tongue this season so far. Aston Martin absolutely flying. So you know what? My driver winner. Jace gets the shout out, but driver winner Cajun. My driver loser I've written down is Melvin. That is purely due to I assume the 10-second speeding in the pit lane. I think he was going to finish 2nd, and he got a 10-second penalty due to speeding in the pit lane, finished 4th. This is opposed to a 5-second, which it was last game, and it's now 10 seconds. Do I agree with it? In part. I think that... Ooh, I'm burping. Excuse me. I think that speeding in the pit lane is a silly mistake. I think that everyone in this league is good enough to know that if you go too fast into the pit lane, you will get a penalty. I mean, maybe not Dan, but everyone else knows that if you go too fast at the pit lane, you'll get a penalty. It is what it is now is just more of a detriment, to be honest. I think it's a big deterrent now that you have to be so careful speeding the pit lane, because 5 seconds is bad, 10 seconds is really bad. My only concern here is that it's now going to cause maybe a lot of drivers just slamming on the brakes late. We might get some rear ends in the pit lane, might maybe get damaged at some point in the pit lane, which is going to be really bad because you can't change your wing, you can't change your MFD for changing your wing while you're already in the pit lane. That's my main concern with the 10 second coming through the pit lane. I think that it should be fine though. I mean, like as I said, every driver is good enough to slow down for the pit lane. So 10 second is deserving if you do it. It's just very, very harsh. They might change it in the patch that's coming up. I've got reasons for and against why they should or shouldn't. I don't think it needs to be changed. The only concern I have is that someone gets rear-ended in the pit lane because they've slammed on the brakes late, realising that, oh god, I actually need to slow down for this pit lane. I can get away with a 5, maybe. I might only lose 1 position. But at 10, I might actually lose like 3, 4, or 5. Melvin has slowed in the pit lane. He's lost not only P2, but he's also lost a podium. He's also lost a position to his teammate as well, which probably stings a tad as well, especially since Vlad has the absolute capability to fight for this title. So does Tomas, who he lost a position to as well. So yeah, that's why he's my driver loser. Not a bad race by any means. He seems to be very consistent, but he's lost 2 free positions there for no real reason. I've also written down, actually, I realised I had Tycho written down as my driver winner, but I scribbled it out. He was just completely dominant in that race. Oh, that's why. I've just realised why. Sorry, I've looked down at my piece of paper. My team winner and my team loser. This is going to be interesting, by the way, because I don't think I've ever done this before. But my team winner is Haas, and my team loser is also Haas. I wrote this list down before the England game, mind, so I'm just going to refreshing my memory as I see it. Team winner Haas, they've signed a driver like Tycho, who is completely off the pace for this division. I think if you turn around to me, as Haas have done, and you've hit me with the Calic lines, as they did last season, then, I mean, I've learned from my mistakes. I don't need to be hearing these Calic lines I heard all of last season. The first thing that I was told by Jamie after Shanghai, after Tycho won by 10 seconds, essentially what happened with Tycho's race is he started on the hards, pit, I think around, I've actually got the numbers here, pit on lap 8, and then pit again on lap 22. He went for a 2-stop strategy. He gapped the field going up to lap 8, then he pit on lap 8, and then between laps 8 and 22, when he went for a second stop, apparently he was 11 seconds in the lead. Let's do some math, ladies and gentlemen. So what's 22 minus 8? I mean, that's 14, right? So, wait, hang on, is it 14? Yes. I shouldn't doubt myself. Why am I doubting myself? That's such an easy calculation. So in 14 laps, he cut through whoever got past him. Whoever got past him when he pit the first time, and then gapped him by 11 seconds. Yes, he was on fresh tyres. 11 seconds. And then Jamie turned around to me after the race and said, oh, well, that was the best strategy. You think that a 2-stop in China is 11 seconds quicker? Are you? No. Come on, come now. That's ridiculous. Okay, maybe. Oh my goodness, the 2-stop could be quicker, but it's not 11 seconds quicker. Okay, right. And second of all, it's not quicker. The 2-stop is not quicker in China, and the fact that no one else in the entire league did a 2-stop on purpose, including none of the remaining Haas drivers. If Tycho turned around and said, you know what, lads, like, I know I'm quick in this division, but 2-stop is quicker. It's definitely quicker. Why did none of the other Haas drivers do it? Fair enough, Div 3 reigned. What about Div 2 and Div 1? Why did none of them go for a 2-stop? Maybe because it wasn't quicker. Yeah, Tycho is head, shoulders, knees, and toes above everyone in that division. He is so much quicker, and the only reason he's not going to win every race this season is because he's too inconsistent to do it. He spun himself in Australia. He has a history in this league and in previous of being very, very dangerous. Fair enough, he's got better. And I agree, he's got better. His peak of dangerousness was the season before season 1 in the previous league, where I was a victim to many of his adventurous corners. It's fair to say. He has got better. He absolutely has got better. He nearly cost me a win in Belgium back in season 1. I don't know how many of you guys were in the league at that time, but I was able to clinch the win just from Skiz. But it seems like the inconsistencies are coming back, and it's not even like, oh, maybe they were always there, and he was just so far back into that division I didn't notice. He was still in Div 3, but that was Belgium season 1 was the only time I ever saw him in season 1 and 2. He's always in Div 3. So maybe he was always this consistent. I just didn't see him. Yes, he is now. The difference between previous and now is instead of being at the back of the division and spinning on his own, he's now at the front of the division and spinning on his own. It's the only reason he didn't win Australia, and I think no one can disagree with me there. He would have won it by years. He's won China by years, and it's because he didn't spin. It's time to go. And I actually didn't watch Div. I didn't watch the Div. I didn't watch the Saudi race because. So I was on holiday, so I didn't watch the Saudi race. I watched bits of... Oh, no, sorry, that's a lie. Sorry, I watched... I engineered the Div 5 race because I was over at Raven's house. I didn't watch the Div 4 race at all. And the Div 3, which was yesterday, I was back from holiday. I was at prom. I put my nose in about lap 10, but I watched about 2 seconds and left. I haven't actually seen what happened. So now we're past Div 5. You know I'm being legitimate in my knowledge. Did Tycho finish in the top 3? Because I don't know. Are the results done? No, they're not done. I'm going to presume, unless he crashed himself out, he won that race. I actually don't know. I have no idea. So let me know in the comments. Did he win it? Did he spin out? That's the question. Did he spin and win it is the question. Tycho's way too quick for that division. He should win every race until he's moved up. He's probably going to get moved up after Saudi. Unless he was genuinely off the pace, but I would be surprised. The reason they're my team winner and team loser is because team winner because they've signed a driver that's way too quick. And that's smart. It's fair. They've tried to exploit it for the 3rd time. Kalik, they built a relationship with the driver who just went onto manual and did very well from there, so fair enough. He did improve himself. He was arguably on pace until he started turning off assists, then he was good. Benjo was an admin mistake that he wasn't actually supposed to be in that division. In our defense, the times he sent in were Div 4, but then he got quicker. Then he showed his race pace was back, and he just dominated that division. This time, Tycho, and you can't tell me, watching his performance in Div 3, he was genuinely supposed to stay in that division. If someone turns around to me and says, oh, well, I knew Tycho was supposed to be Div 3 all along. No, you didn't. He was... Look at his results from last season. Tycho's just been very quick on this game. We've seen a lot of drivers just excel in this game. Epic OJ is one, Skiz is another. He's just the 3rd of my list. So, yes, he will be moved up, I'm fairly sure, unless Saudi went weird, then maybe not. They're my team loser because they're my team winner because they've signed a driver that's very quick for the division. They're my team loser because they've signed a driver who's too quick for the division, is the concern. Also, what did Jamie do? Why did Jamie start in the front row and finish 8th? What? Oh yeah, because he was on a stupid strategy as well. He went medium hard as well. So funnily enough, right, what we've learned is that Haas went for a 2-stop, which apparently is quicker than medium hard, and medium hard was the alternate of what you were supposed to do. So essentially what you're telling me is that both Haas's were on stupid strategies. One of them finished 8th, and one of them finished 1st by 11 seconds. Okay. We can learn from this, can't we, ladies and gentlemen? Righty, we move up to Division 3, division I partake in, and I've just noticed there's a spider crawling towards me on my desk. Hello. Would you like to join me for the recording? Hello. Right, we've got a special feature. Is that the title, or is that a bit misleading? It's kind of clickbait, isn't it? It's a small one. Don't worry, guys. I won't just randomly scream. Sorry, I need to drop my inhaler on it. Yes. So Div 3. I'm watching where you're going, Mr. Spider. Driver winner. I have given it equal to Skiz and Oberwalf. I'm gonna give it to Skiz because he technically won the race. Yeah, they were. See how I said the Tycho was head, shoulders, knees, and toes ahead of everyone? They were 5 people ahead of everyone else. I finished 3rd that race, and my average lap times were 1.1 seconds slower than Oberwalf and Skiz. And you might turn around to me and say, oh, Avi, you're just exaggerating. What are you talking about? 1 second faster? No, right. Oberwalf did a fast... I don't know when it was. It was midway through the race. And obviously this was raining. Oberwalf set a fastest lap of a 1:44 something. And I shouted at Tanner, what the... I can't swear on the podcast, can I? I literally shouted at him. I started swearing, like, what is that? Because meanwhile, my fastest lap was in the 1:46s, and I was 3rd. I was 3rd by ages. I was 3rd by 10 seconds. So if they weren't in this division, I would have won by 10 seseconds, which is a big gap. You know what I mean? That's a solid gap, right? And they're lapping a second quicker than me? Why are they like, I could see they were a second quicker than me during the race because their fastest laps were a second quicker than the laps I was doing. I don't know what was going on. It felt like, so I was actually asking Tanner, watch their laps. What are they doing? What corners are they cutting? I could have cut a corner and still gone slower than that. That race was a learning point for me. So what is Skiz and Oberhof doing that I'm not doing? What are they doing? A different layout, maybe? They were so much quicker than everyone else, to the point where they won by 33 seconds or something. I mean, that's the biggest gap of. I mean, obviously, it's not technically a gap of winning because it was both of them. It was the biggest gap to everyone else, you could say. So driver winner, fair enough. They might get moved up because of that. You know what I mean? They're more on the edge than Tycho is, purely because it was a wet race. You know what I mean? You can be different. You can be prepared for it. There was no drying at all. It was inters the whole way and full wets the whole way as well. The second stint was inters. So I mean, you could make the argument that obviously they've practiced for wet. I mean, I halved it. I didn't really. So I mean, there's obviously that argument. I mean, still 1 second is a big gap. So there's that is their argument. But I've heard Skiz did well in Saudi. Oberhof and Skiz were probably the two quickest in Australia as well. I think obviously Oberhof spun, which made it mean he was on a comeback the whole race. Skiz spun twice, and I mean, I've said it before, I said it in the podcast before, should have won that race, but he spun on the second to last lap, which cost him the chance, because there's 15 DRS straights in Australia, so at least one of them he would have got close enough to make a striking move. I mean, again, it's another race where they've been quicker than everyone else. I do think the 30 seconds is a bit niche. I think the 30 seconds is a bit misleading. They weren't actually going to win by that much if it was dry, I don't think. But yes, they are very quick in that division. My driver loser's got to be Matt. I mean, like, it's so unlucky. And don't get me wrong, it gave me a podium, fair enough. But essentially what happened to Matt, he was running P3, I was running P4, because I had a quite poor qualifying. I was quite far behind Matt at this stage because I spent the previous 5 laps getting past people. I got up to P4, Matt was running P3, and the Skiz and Oberhof were in the distance of the rain. They were completely invisible by any of us. I was closing Matt down by about half a tenth per lap. It was very, very close. We were lapping incredibly similar. I think it would have been a stretch to say I think I might have caught him at the very end, but I would have had to get the strategy bang on. Maybe if we pit in different laps, I could have closed him in. But realistically, it would have been very close. We were very, very equal on pace, and he got disconnected. And then there's the glitch where you can't control your car again. So the mistake that he made, I presume, is he left the lobby, which then DNF'd him. So he was, realistically, he was either going to get 3rd or 4th. If I caught him, it would have been 4th. If I hadn't, it would have been 3rd. And he's got absolutely nothing for it. And he's absolutely my driver loser because he's actually showing pace now. Season 1, he was really good. Season 2, he was all right. Season 3, he's back again. And I'm very happy, but, it kind of sucked for him. He's had 2 bad races. Got wing damage in Australia on his own doing, to my knowledge. And then whatever this was. I mean, once again, F1 coming back to us with a fresh new batch of glitches. That should be what's on the trailer. You buy this game because it's got lots of new glitches you can enjoy. I do feel bad for Matt. It does suck. He should have had a podium. Driver loser. Team winner, I didn't give it to anyone. We've got a lovely situation in Div 3, which I've said so many times in the past, where there are so many teams up there at the front. We've got a beautiful rainbow-coloured array up there in the top 10, top 15. Lots of different teams up there at the front. So I'm going to say team winner, no one. I didn't see any particular teamwork between 2 drivers. So for me, I think I'm going to give it to no one. My team loser for sure is Mercedes. I think that Mercedes, as I will talk about in the FCC podcast, have had a honker first few rounds. It's nothing that can't be switched. I think that my concerns for a team like Sauber are very different because Sauber, from what I can see, is a lack of effort, whereas Mercedes, they don't have that. Mercedes, they've got a real good foundation, at least for a midfield team, where they should be. They've got a very good foundation. They've got Moss Megan, who obviously cares about the team, is running it. Seems to be very well. They've just had an unfortunate start, and that's completely fine. It's understandable that you can just start the season poorly. Like Ferrari have got a lot of big names, and they've had quite a slow start. Haas haven't had the quickest start. They've had a decent start. McLaren have been, breaking boundaries. So it gave me a bit all over the place. By the end of the season, I'd be shocked to see that Mercedes not in the midfield again. But it's just a bit of a wobbly start. That's completely fine. But yeah, I'm going to give him driver loser here. We'll start with Ransdale. Ransdale P2 in qualifying, and I was told he did P2 on qualifying on a wet setup. Quality was dry, and the race was wet. So why he was slow in the wet and quick on the dry, I'm not too sure. But Ransdale, fair play. Grabbing a front row from Merc is probably the smiles that they needed, but it was very short-lived. From what I could tell, didn't really have very much pace in the wet. He dropped down the order down to 7th after. I passed him for 4th, so he'd already dropped down 2 positions by lap 5. By the time I got to him, and then he continued dropping down behind Liam, behind Conehead, and behind Baldy as well. He was fighting with Malachi and Kua as well in that little fight in the midfield that I was listening to with the engineers. But yeah, unfortunately for Ransdale, just difficult on pace. He's definitely up there in probably the top 5 quickest drivers in this division, maybe top 6 or 7. But yeah, struggling wet pace. So it's something you learn, I guess, over the time this game is out. As for Big B, it's a very different situation. He hasn't got quality or race pace. Ransdale is an exciting prospect, and I would be very surprised if Ransdale doesn't like. If he sorts out this game, gets really quick at it, he'll get scattered by a big team. Big B, on the other hand, this is his first race in XRS at least on the new game. Qualified 17th, finished 14th. Scored points, but he's not on the pace that maybe we saw him last season. I mean, even last season, Big B, I don't know, maybe he doesn't put the effort in or anything like that, but he seems to me, as a spectator of his driving, as the most track-dependent driver I think I've ever seen. He is either fighting for the win, or is nowhere to be seen above under P12. There's never an in the middle. So you'll see in Austria in season 2, I think it was, maybe it was season 1. In Spain, it was season 2, yeah. In Spain in season 1. There's a couple of other examples I can't remember, but he's up there at the front. He's fighting for the win. It's not even like he's fighting for 5th. He's fighting for the win, or he's nowhere. And I don't really understand why there's that divide. Maybe he's got more time to practice some tracks. But yeah, this is this is once again another Big B at the back. 17th to 14th. It's not. Yeah, it's not great. Mercedes need points, to be honest. This is points. At least he got past a couple of people to get. Oh no, he didn't actually. Got past one person. But it's still points. It's still points. So it's still important nonetheless. Don't know what Mercedes' move is here. As I said, I'll talk about Mercedes as a team more in the OCC rundown. But I don't know what their move is here. I always say, what makes a good team principal is how you deal with errors, how something goes wrong and you deal with it. Big B is something that's gone wrong, it seems. Do they continue putting time into him and build him up to be a good driver again, or do they look for a replacement? His contract ends at the end of the season. At this, obviously, I didn't. As I said, actually, it's premature to say that he might get replaced because I've only seen one race of him. I don't know if he raced Saudi or not. As I said, I'm not going to reference it anyway, and I didn't watch it, so. I hope he brings it back because then that's not a worry. But if he did it, if I assume he had a bad race in Saudi, then what is the approach that Mercedes are going to take? Because he is now a driver that is at the back. He is a back driver in this division. How do they approach making him better or look for a replacement? Because Mercedes, while it has been an unlucky season, and I'll give them that, it's not as if they're giving themselves favours. There has been stuff that's been going fundamentally wrong with some of their drivers being off the pace, making silly mistakes. So how does Dylan approach that? Is what I'm very interested in, especially with Big B as well. On to Division 2, my driver winner. I've written down my driver winner as Cintium, but to my knowledge, that I'm surprised I made that conclusion. Like I said, I made this list before the England game. Would I have not put Epic? You know what? Actually, no. I know why I put Cintium. Epic, fair play. I'm going to give 2 people a mention of what's it called? A honourable mention. Epic, fair play, good win, clearly at the front of the division, could absolutely fight for the title and probably win it. I'm very excited. Div 2, one of my favourites. I'm also going to give an honourable mention to TIR Adam. What a debut! What a debut! P9 to P3, great podium for VCARB, one of their first of the season. Maybe a driver looking to the future. If he is a regular in the league, could look to go to an even bigger team than VCARB and become a championship fighter. But what a way to start a career in XRS, getting a podium. Really puts your name out there as being a top driver. Very, very well done. The driver actually given it to Ascentium, and I think that's very fair. Ascentium was not on the pace in Australia. I hear it was due to input issues, maybe being on a wheel or controller, he wasn't used to or something like that. Something was going on in Australia, and that's why he was in the midfield. He's back, and he's back very strong. I watched the end of the Saudi race, and he's up there at the front again. Very exciting. He is probably going to be Haas's best friend right now, because Haas, while they are staying as strong as last season, they are also kind of getting dished by McLaren. And if I'm being completely honest, I think Ascentium is the only Haas that is legitimately beating McLaren. So, in that case, very well done Ascentium, because he's got himself a podium in Shanghai. What a way to start a comeback, and I'm very excited to see the battle between Ascentium and his old team in Epic OJ. It's going to be good. My driver loser, got to be Ronan Keane. Very, very similar explanation to Matt. The only difference was actually with Matt is that he wasn't really on the pace as much as maybe we expected. Matt was going to get a podium. Ronan probably wasn't, at least not at the pace we saw. He qualified 7th. He was fighting around that area. And of course, same thing issue, disconnected, and that changed into a DNF when he left the game. Sucks. And the main reason I've given it to him as well is because he's the defending champion, and it's probably a little bit of it's a stab in the neck to miss the first race and then have this happen in the second race. I mean, it's not a great start. Not a great start. We've got a long season as well, but it's difficult to come back from that kind of thing. We'll see. If anyone can do it, it's probably him. So we'll wait and see how it goes. My team winner I've put down as McLaren, and I think that's very, very fair analysis. Epic OJ once again up at the front, winning another race with an insane dive bomb at the final corner. Second to final corner, I should say. What Tiger should have done to make it 2 wins for McLaren is what I also mentioned. Or 3 wins, sorry, Skiers, of course. 3 wins for McLaren. No, he did not do that. He did a very much more managed dive as well, and got past Ascentium. Got the win, went for the inside as well. The inside was interesting, actually. The door was closing, and it takes a lot of bravery to go for that corner and trust you're going to have enough rotation to get round it. Obviously, if you brake too early, then the person will just go around you if you're taking a corner that tight. If you go too late, of course, it'll just get switchbacked. And he's managed to find that beautiful middle ground where it's made a beautiful looking overtake. So, fair play to Epic OJ. The man who actually stood out to me a little bit more than OJ, I will say, actually, it was Millard. I mean, he may have finished 6th from 10th. But comparing that to his race in Australia, he has found his form. And I know he was planning to race on a wheel. The wheel broke last minute in Australia, which meant he had to go to controller, which is why he was off the pace. Now he's back on controller. I believe he's on controller full time, and he seems to be finding his form. P6 was briefly fighting for the podium. Was unsuccessful, but you know what? Fair enough. P6 is a good way to start back this climb. McLaren could absolutely topple Ferrari in their current 2-win consecutive Div 2 constructors. I think realistically the team that will beat them is McLaren. Maybe Haas of Asteroid is back on form. And Millard is probably the... Yeah. So it'll be McLaren or Haas who topple them if anyone does. And Millard finding his form is going to be making McLaren smile and imagining them making it a bit more realistic that they do topple Ferrari. So fair enough for Millard. Good race, good consistency. He's back there at the front. A little bit of a silly 3 second. If I have to say myself, I have to be a bit controversial, a bit critical. That was a lazy 3 second from him. That shouldn't have been something that he did. He went for a move on the inside of, I believe it was Mateo Manga at the penultimate corner. Took the corner too tight and cut the corner, giving him a final warning in a 3 second. A bit lazy, if I'm going to be completely critical. That was a silly mistake, but you know what? Fair enough, because he made it up and still got P6. It's still good points, you know what I mean? And this is the climb back. This is the coming back of Mill. I also noticed actually his number is 71 and mine is 91. That's quite cool. I thought his was 15. Maybe when he came back, he made his comeback. Of course, Mill's a huge name in the league at this stage. He's been on a couple podcasts as well. Actually, he was on the predictions this season, and he did a quick fire interview, and he did a race rundown all the way back in Australia season 1 as well. So Mill is currently P3 in appearances on the podcast. I've been on all of them. Raven's been on a handful. And then it's Finley Millard. Let me know in the comments, everybody, if you think the Millard should come back or who you want to see on a podcast. I want to do some quick fire interviews as well. So let me know who you want to see. We're going to move on to Team Loser. Is there really any other team I can give it to? I think everyone knows what I'm going to say. It's going to be Sauber. The missed score points, that was due to the weird glitch where everyone DNF'd. And I can't lie, if a team like Sauber who finished second only 2 seasons ago. They finished second in season 1. They finished 5th in season 2. So the decline was there. They were briefly second, but the decline was obvious. And they're now getting predicted P10. Like, a team that ever finished second in at least the last 5 seasons. If your team finished second, you should not be relying on everyone's DNFs to score points whatsoever. There was one safety car, I believe, and they still finished 11th and 14th. And I believe Dodo picked up penalties as well. Just so poor from this team. I mean, I'm really hoping that we see Sauber just make a comeback, because this is so poor from them so far. They're going to finish 10th at this rate. And the worry I have, as I said, about Mercedes as well, is that Mercedes have the drive there. I don't know if Sauber do. So they're much more concerning in my eyes. That actually leads me very nicely on to Div 1. We're going to quickly skip on to Div 1 on to Sunday. My driver winner, actually, it was so definite. It was likely. Fair play to my boy, because he nearly got stiffed. So First of all, Zalagi, what right does Zalagi have qualifying 5th in a division with these aliens? Fair play. Really, really good qualifying. He was up there fighting with the front. I think he took the lead at one point. And by the way, if I was commentating that race, Zalagi would have made 15 TikToks on me screaming Zalagi takes the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix. Because that would have been nuts. The reason I like Zalagi so much, I don't really talk to him. We're not really league friends or anything. But it's the fact that he's an OG. He's an OG from XRS, and I always rate the OGs, the people that have been there from day one. Zalagi not only has been here from day one, but he's been in the same team since day one. He has a lot of loyalty to Alfa Romeo turned Sauber. And fair play, considering they're completely useless now. Zalagi may be their main man. I didn't expect to be thinking it's Zalagi of anyone. Atom was very strong as well that race. But I'm going to give driver winner to Zalagi. When the safety car came out, it blocked the top 5 because it came out when they'd already crossed the pit lane. So everyone from P6 downwards could pit, and Zalagi had to wait another lap, meaning when he came out the pits, he was not in the position he was originally, as well as the other 4 ahead of him. And he stayed off the penalties, stayed off the track limit penalties and the post-race penalties, made a couple of positions as well, finished 5th. I think that's Sauber's best finish this season. I'd be amazed if it isn't. Fair play. Absolutely fair play. I would have gone crazy for a Zalagi P5 if I was commentating. And they really need that, because their results this season have, I don't even know if they've been in the top 10 yet. I don't know if they know what the top 10 smells like so far this season. Their lineup is so underwhelming, and it is so great to see that if anyone's going to come and save them, it's one of the OGs. So fair play to Zalagi. Well done. My driver loser is Alec. He If you know my history with Alec, this is in the previous league, of course, I've only had 2 legitimate hatred rivals, when there's actually, half banter, but kind of hatred rivals in league racing. And you know me, as you've met me through this podcast, that I love a bit of drama, I love a bit of chaos, I love a bit of controversy. So if I have a rival that's actually a bit of hate there's a bit of venom there, I would love it. My first one was Pink, obviously. In fact, the way me and Pink met was a bit of hatred in season 3 of the previous league, with my first league racing season ever. And we were very equal on pace, so it got a bit squabby sometimes. Alec was very different. Alec was not equal to my pace. Alec was actually miles off my pace. Alec was nowhere to be seen. But the reason he ever saw me is because he took me out so many times. And for those of you who don't know, and I can't most of the people that are watching this probably do, penalty points in this previous league worked very, very similar to XRS. So I'm going to put it into perspective of XRS as well, because it works the same way, right? So the reason a season ban exists is because of Alec. I reported him about round 9 after him taking me out so many times, and they made a season ban for him. A season ban at that league's time was 24 penalty points. I think, or maybe it was less. Ooh, I think it was 21. No, that's a lie. It was 21 penalty points, and he got 24 because he got multiple in the last race in his final race. It was 21 penalty points for a season, man. He got 24 in 9 races, and 17 of them were on me. Okay, right. Let's put it into perspective, right? Let's put it into perspective. You put someone in a wall, that's 3 penalty points. Okay, how many 3s go into 17? I want you all, okay, to comment in this comment section, right? How many 3s go into 17, alright? So you're telling me this man has put me in a wall 5 times, at least 5 times, okay? Right. Anyway, sorry, ran over. That hit a nerve in my heart there, okay? So anyway, Alec, is known for being atrocious in being safe in any aspect. And I'll tell you what, in XRS he surprised me. He came back at the very end of season 1 because I banned him from joining. As in, this was literally the season prior to XRS's existence. I banned him from joining because of his terrible standards. It was purely me. I take full responsibility. I was not allowing Alec in my league. But he, I was convinced, and he joined, and I can't lie, it was a good decision. He came through. I think Singapore season 1 was his first race. He did very well. Like I think he had a spin, which brought him down a bit, but he still got a podium, I think, and he actually did very well. Very mature race. Season 2. Round 1, he was on the front row in Division 1. He couldn't do the Div 2 days, we had to go up to Div 1. He was on the front row in qualifying in round 1. I was the biggest Alec fan, if anything. I mean, that was unreal. You all know I love an underdog story. And that was unreal. He had actually a very solid last season. He was on the podium a couple times, I think. One of them being Austria. Maybe it was once then. But yeah, a lot of good qualifying as well. I was on board the Alec hype train. He turned up to China this weekend and did to Raven what he'd done to me all that time ago. It's over a year ago now, I think, that season. It actually is exactly a year ago. Alec's mind turned back to a year ago, and he saw the Ferrari of Raven West as the McLaren of Avi the Cobra, is what I was called back then. And he committed crimes against league racing. He committed crimes against the entire game's existence against him. You know that rule, the one that Raven pointed out to me, and I love how Raven explains things. It's so funny, especially when you're in real life. The way he explains just simple things is so funny. But the way he explained one of the moves Alec tried to pull on him, it was into this turn 6 hairpin in China, of course, this race. And you know how you have to be axle to axle at the turning point of a corner? Raven showed a screenshot of how he's turning. At the turn, so Alex dived down the inside of him at turn 6, right? It's caused contacts, and it's a lot of shuffling, you know what I mean? Obviously a penalty. And you know how stewards have to literally, and all the stewards can back me up here, you know you have to like slow down a video and pause and play to get the exact moment where the leading car is turning. So to see if they're axle to axle. In this video, Alec is completely behind Raven at the turning point. I wanted to go into Stuart's report. You can see the clip as well. He is completely behind and still dives for it while he's turning. So the way Raven explained that was so funny. Yeah, Alec, driver loser by so far. I think he might actually be the worst league racer I've ever experienced. In the year and a half I've been league racing, he may still be the worst. You can be as quick as you want. You can qualify the front row of Div 1, but if it takes you 2 seasons to go back to being the most dangerous league racer I think I've ever seen. And I mean, it's the difference between if you pick up if I give my brother like an Xbox controller and tell him drive this race, he might accidentally take someone out. It'll be too slow probably. He might accidentally take someone out, and it might be a really lazy move, like a dive down turn 1 or something, and he just doesn't brake. You know what I mean? Because that's what someone who doesn't play the game might do. But Alec's quick enough to not do that. Alec's experienced enough to not do that, and he chooses to. He chooses to be rash and silly and doesn't really care if he takes someone out. He broke his contract after that race, saying, "I can't do this. The standards are too dirty." Meanwhile, Kevin coming out of that race with like 7 penalty points and 15 seconds of pens. I don't really think. Like, have you ever Googled the word hypocrite? Or irony? Irony would be a good one. I would invite Alec to Google those words before we move on to to my team winner and my team loser. My team winner in Div 1, I didn't give one. Again, similar situation. I didn't really see particular teamwork from that race. Obviously, that race I did not watch that race because I was preparing for holiday because I was leaving that morning. Aston Martin's again scoring really good points, so I could give it to Aston Martin. They seem to do very, very well. My team loser was Williams. Elias staying out under the safety car. A risky strategy. I mean, obviously he knew he would come out quite far back because of when the safety car came out. Of course, he was forced to either pit late or not pit at all. He was the only driver who not pit at all. Obviously, after being on pole, finished P10. I think it's quite lucky he finished on P10. I think he finished P5 actually and got a post-race penalty. I think it's kind of lucky he even stayed that high, to be honest, because those tyres must have been so much lower. And the other Williams was Stello, who DNF'd on lap 1. Very underwhelming. a race that could have scored really big points and it just didn't. So that's why I've given Team Lewis a pretty simple explanation, to be honest. Right, thank you very much, everyone, for joining me for a long podcast, a lot of waffle. You can tell, right? If you can't tell, right, I'm so buzzing to talk about the OCC because I've got so much I want to waffle about. And I've just kind of translated it into my driving, into my descriptions of the drivers. Yes, we've got I'll get the Saudi video up literally Monday or Tuesday. I will make sure I'm going to record it straight away. I will also absolutely do an OCC video if you guys want to see that, because I've got a lot of critical thoughts. And maybe I think I've been more critical in this video than I have ever, and it's not even that bad. I've got way worse things to say in the OCC. So let me know. I will absolutely make a video about that. I think it'll be a fan favorite. You know what? I'll turn my face cam on. You know what? If you guys want me to do an OCC video, I'll turn my face cam on, because actually I quite like to do that. I think it'll be quite fun to just chat about everybody. So I will get on that. Hope you're all enjoying XRS. We are currently halfway through round 3, although I'm talking about it as if it was round 2 because I've been on holiday. We will complete round 3 very, very shortly with Division 1 tomorrow. I will get this video out hopefully on Sunday. And I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.